繼續。
I think we may now resume the first item of our special meeting today. First of all, I'd like to remind those deputations who have just come into this chamber that during the meeting today, you may use your earpiece. There are three versions. Channel 1, for Channel 1, you may tune into the Cantonese channel. Channel 2 is English, and Channel 3 is Putonghua. I will invite the deputy to speak according to the number to which they are assigned. Each of you will have 3 minutes. I also like to remind those present that what you say after you've spoken for 3 minutes, the alarm will you hear an alarm and you have to stop. And also for deputations who have not yet put in their submissions, you may submit them to a secretariat after the meeting. Also, I'd like to remind you that when you make your submissions to the committee, you're not covered by the Powers and Privileges Ordinance of this Council, and the same applies to your submissions. That is, you are not protected by the Powers and Privileges Ordinance. Deputations and individuals present should also pay attention to the notes to those attending to the proceedings of this Council. And the notice is also attached to the letter issued to you by a secretariat and table for you today. You may also obtain a copy of the notes from our staff. The purpose of our hearing today is to allow members and officials to listen to the public's views. There will be 3 parts for the public hearing. First of all, the deputations will make the submissions. Secondly, the officials will respond to the submissions made by members of the public. And thirdly, I will arrange for time for LegCo members to ask questions. I also must point out that in order for our proceedings to be conducted smoothly, when members ask questions, they should first address the chairman, and then I will invite the officials or the members of the public to respond. Only after I've given my indication should the officials and the members of the public should respond, and there should not be any direct dialogue between the deputations and the officials. I also like to remind those present that according to Article 787 of our Rules of Procedure, the chairman may ask anyone who is involved in improper behavior to leave this venue. So once again, I'd like to remind you that you must observe proper order during our meeting. Details are already outlined in the notes for those attending, proceedings in this Council. And I will evict those who do not observe order without prior warning. And the first to speak for this session is Mr. Teng Chek Him. Thank you. Secretary, LegCo members, today, regarding the hearing on the National Anthem Law, I personally think that that the public hearing today is really not necessary. Honestly, the National Anthem should be respected, as we all know. It is not reasonable for anyone to do anything to insult the national anthem. But in Hong Kong, we have too much freedom of speech. And people with ulterior motives have deliberately made use of this platform to actually jeopardize the image of our national anthem and the spirit of our people. So what I want to say today is that we don't need to worry. If you do not do anything wrong, then you will not be caught by the law. The government is proposing to enact the National Anthem Law pursuant to the decision of the NPCSC. Now, Now, to make an analogy, it's like a mother asking a child not to engage in certain behavior because such behavior are wrong. But if the child still does that again and again, then the mother may think that the child is being very disobedient, and she would then come up with some punishment to see whether or not she could change the behavior of the young child. I think the intention of enacting the National Anthem Law is like that. I therefore like to urge all those present that is, we should reflect. I think we should think more carefully about certain details regarding the National Anthem Law. How the Secretary could spell out more clearly so that the public would know what would be our legal, what would be the liabilities should we, breach the law. Next, Ms. Lau. Thank you. I think in many countries today, they have their own national anthem laws. For example, Singapore, India, and Canada. Some of the laws would specifically forbid people engaging in acts which insult the national anthem. Hong Kong is part of China. To incorporate the national anthem law into Annex 3 of the Basic Law is the right thing to do and necessary. And also through this opportunity, I think we can further enhance the people of Hong Kong's understanding of our national identity and to develop our own passion and love for our country. As a Chinese national, we should proactively try to understand the background and the history of our national anthem, and in the process learn to respect our national anthem, our national flag, and our national emblem. This is also when the national anthem is being played, certain etiquette must be observed because we're talking about a solemn occasion here. In the past, there have been major sports events held in public venues, and certain radical elements have, resorted to improper behavior which insulted the national anthem, and that is wrong. As a Chinese national, respecting our own national anthem is our natural duty. It is also a civic responsibility. In other countries, in any country, in fact, it is you would not be allowed to insult your own national anthem, and therefore enacting the national anthem law in Hong Kong can stop this, perverse trend of people, insulting our national anthem. Some people have argued that after we've enacted the national anthem law, we will lose our freedom of expression, and that if we were to sing the national anthem out of tune, we will be in breach of the law, and use that as an excuse to object to the enactment of the law. I think that is simply not right. They are misleading the public. Personally, I think after we've enacted this legislation, there should be penalties. Without penalties, people may feel that they don't have the responsibility to respect the national anthem. If people deliberately, commit offences by insulting the national anthem, and there must be penalties. If you really respect the national anthem, you needn't worry. I think, of course, there are situations where, I'm sorry, your time is up. Next, Mr. Hon LegCo. First of all, I think we must clarify one point. Respecting a national anthem is a question of attitude and values. If you want to deal with something relating to one's value and attitude, education is the most effective way to go. If we're going to resort to enacting a legislation to require people to respect the national anthem, you are simply compelling people to observe the law, but they may not honestly or sincerely respect the national anthem. when we look at the relationship between Hong Kong and China, I think while we may hold different values, and to compel people to compel those people who don't really respect the national anthem to do that, are we really enhancing people's sense of nationality, or are you further enhancing the hatred? Article 18 says that any provisions included in the Annex 3 should be confined to matters relating to the defense and foreign affairs. But under Article 131 of the Basic Law, it is stipulated that the SAR can freely develop its own education system. It falls within the area of our own autonomy. Why is it that just because we need to comply with Article 18 and Annex 3 of the Basic Law, we have to follow what the mainland is doing and then enact the National Anthem Law in Hong Kong? Even if we were to enact the National Anthem Law, there should be a genuine need in Hong Kong first before we go for legislation. We heard just now that the National Anthem Law should also apply to the school. So I'd like to ask whether teachers should actually report on students who don't respect the national anthem. The school is not responsible for law enforcement, but if you have a situation where during a graduation ceremony or during the school commencement a student engaged in certain acts which is regarded as disrespectful of the national anthem, would you require the teacher or the school to report on those students? For autistic students, students suffering from ADHD, or the students may not be able to control their own behavior. And when the national anthem is being played, they engage in behavior which is misunderstood to be disrespectful to national law. What's going to happen? I think one could actually rely on education to resolve those problems. And if we could do that, why do we need to enact a piece of legislation for the purpose? If education can resolve the problem, I'm against enacting the national anthem law. Next, Mr. Wan Yiping. Thank you. I support the enactment of the National Anthem Law. First of all, as a teacher,
I believe we can enhance students' national identity by having this bill, and I think we can inculcate in students this awareness. I hope that the Bureau and the Education Bureau, that is, and other departments can provide clear guidelines and support after we have the bill, say the content to be taught in primary and secondary schools, and please let us have teaching materials. And also, when we actually have to teach the national anthem, that would make it easier for us. As for the etiquette and other points to note, if there is a clear law and guidelines, the teachers can do it with more accuracy, and so it will be more effective. I also agree that attitude can be formed by education, but very often we say, first of all, we should seek to control and then we can educate. So if there is something to go by, it will be give us more teeth. As Article 1 of the national states, that this is to preserve the dignity of the country, and if it is also the symbol of the country, everyone should respect the national anthem. The law should state that it will serve to emphasize this point. Other countries have relevant laws as well. I think we should support the making of the bill. Therefore, I support it, and I hope that when you do so, you can write your clauses clearly. Say, for example, what kind of behavior or conduct will be allowed. And also, can the national anthem be played right after another country's national anthem? Please let us know exactly what can be done. Thank you. Next one. Mr. Pt4. Good afternoon. I am a Hong Kong young person with no political affiliation. I object to the National Anthem Bill. I have 4 reasons. I have stated my reasons in the submission, but I will mention only one here, and that is the elements of crime. This is very vague. You say there should be standing, that you should deport yourself respectfully, or you should not be derogatory. Well, however, all these are not defined. Say, for example, that you should deport yourself respectfully. 6 Legislative Council's members have been disqualified, and now we understand that the definition of solemnity as understood by the court is so different from what the public understand it to be. It was really an eye-opener, and so the public may break the law because they don't understand it. And also, this is going to attract criminal liability. The prosecution just has to prove the actus reus, and mens rea would only be a mitigating factor. If you cannot define all these elements of crime, I will ask you to withdraw from this process of legislation before you can write out the articles clearly. And I would like to refute other views in support. Some people say if you boo the national anthem, it will affect Hong Kong's image. I think those people have not read the international news. As you know, in Barcelona, the fans would boo the Spanish national anthem. Well, the club would be penalized with a fine, but then it raises the world's awareness of the call for independence of Catalonia. For young people, this is only an exercise of our civic right, and we want Hong Kong, other people in the world to know that Hong Kong young people do not support the communist regime in China. In fact, the National Anthem Law would go against Article 18 of the ICCPR, that everyone should have religious and other freedoms, and this should not be threatened or clawed back by legislation and other matters. Now, of course, if you do so, you will not be penalized, but then you may suffer from economic sanction, and Hong Kong may go down in rankings of different kinds. You may be subject to judicial review, and you may be subject to international sanction, but you still want to go ahead with this. I'd like to ask Mr. Patrick Nip, is it that the CMAB has this political duty to push through this bill and also Article 23? What is the necessity? People must have a sense of belonging before they can love the country. This cannot be forced by a bill. If you force people to love the country, you will just make people more resentful of the country. This should not be dictated by government. Thank you, Mr. Chow Kok Keung. Chairman, Secretary, members. First, our Federation supports making of the National Anthem Bill ASAP. In recent years, people with ulterior motives booed the PRC National Anthem because they have ulterior motives. Remember, we're all Chinese. They have exhibited behavior that represents gross disrespect to the country and their race. And even foreigners lifted their eyebrows. This is very childish, and they put us to shame as well. The SALG therefore must make a law to stop this as soon as possible. In fact, many countries have made their own national anthem and national flag laws according to their own national sentiments. We should unite the entire nation. You must understand that the anthem and flag are symbols of the country. They have important political and cultural meanings. They exhibit the spirit of the country, and they serve to unite the people. We have the duty and obligation to love and respect our national flag and anthem. You must also comply with the relevant laws. In fact, respecting the national anthem does not go against human rights. The bill is not there to make it difficult for the average person. It is just a line of defense to make people respect the country. Since 1997, it's important to stick to the principle of one country, two systems. But we should also seek to protect the territorial integrity of the country. So the national anthem has this symbolic meaning. If you respect the national anthem, you respect the country and your race. We believe and we support the making of the bill. We should not wait longer. Thank you, Mr. Lam Sek Tim. Chairman, members, I'm the Chief Executive of Chin Wan Community Network. We all know that we will have this bill. Well, you are staging this an orchestrated act just to make life difficult for Hong Kong people. If you are using an iPhone, if you have a foreign passport, discard those before you talk to me. Before 1997, how many people were penalized because they did not know how to sing the British national anthem? Well, every national anthem has its deep-seated meaning, and it has a story. Just let us ask, when you introduce the PRC national anthem, how will you introduce the lyricist? The lyricist of the national anthem, how will you introduce him and his life history? Will you say that they were made to die by the Communist Party of the PRC? Also, the hard fact is that there is a story, and you must tell the story when you make this bill. Some radical pro-establishment people are acting as minions, and they would like to get some goodies from the Communist Party. Well, you are not going to get anything because the CCP has never regarded Hong Kong as anything. You will not be able to get any advantage. Do you think you will gain credit by making this law? You are too naive. And also, a country that really has the support of the people just doesn't need any national flag or anthem law. The people will defend their country with their own blood. Talking about the Qing dynasty, it had a national anthem. But in the Qing dynasty, did it have a law? Well, we have to ask historians. But history tells us that when the national anthem was promulgated by the Qing dynasty on the 10th of October 1911, 6 days after the promulgation of the national anthem, the riot that toppled the Qing dynasty formally broke in. So whatever you do with the national anthem law, if you are not supported by the people, you will be overthrown. Next one, Shek Mei Wan. I do not have any political affiliation, Chairman. Good afternoon. First, I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to attend this hearing. There is a legal backing for making the bill. The National Anthem Law is a national law, and it has been included in Annex 3 of the Basic Law of Hong Kong SAR, meaning that this national law should be implemented in Hong Kong. According to the Constitution and the Basic Law of the Hong Kong SAR, Hong Kong should make local legislation in order to implement the National Anthem Law. Secondly, when we make this bill, we should follow the original intent and purpose of the National Anthem Law. The national anthem is the same as national flag and national emblem. They are the symbols of the country, and anyone should respect it. And in local legislation, we should have clauses to stipulate the standard requirements and also specific implementation details for respecting the national anthem, and there should be preventive measures as well, and also criminal liability. Number 3, I'd like to speak on the bill itself. The National Anthem Bill states that according to Article 7 of the National Law, when the national anthem is performed and sung, those present shall stand and deport themselves respectfully and must not display any behavior that is disrespectful to the national anthem. When anyone takes part in or is present at such occasions, they should stand and deport themselves respectfully. Well, this is the very basic respect people should show. But in real life, some people are disabled, say they can't walk, they are wheelchair bound, or they have a distorted spine and the knees may be rotated. And so we should have regard for people's physical ability and situation. When you implement this article, you may not be able to implement it fully. I think you should seek legal expert opinion to say that you should actually copy Article 7 of the national law itself to say that those present shall stand and deport themselves respectfully and must not display any behavior that is disrespectful to the national anthem. So this will not alter the original intent of the national law, but there will not be any compulsion. Sorry, your time is up. Thank you. Next one, Mr. Ho Wang. Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon. Why is it that the National Anthem Law is here with us at the meeting room today? I think you'll understand it is because so-called Hong Kong young people did something to insult the country on public occasions. Is that what most young people wanted to do? I don't think so. This is only incited by a minority. And other people wanted to have fun. Should we not give them the opportunity to know that what they did is wrong, and legislation is one of the channels to do so? There was this jockey, I don't remember who it was, and he talked about Tian Han. It's just like Mr. Lam Sek Tin. He talked about the misery of Mr. Tian Han. But does he understand that he was vindicated by the CCP in 1979? And also on the 25th of April 1979, in the Babaoshan memorial site for revolutionaries, he was recognized. He was given the right recognition. What is not acceptable is, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Holden Chow, I want to talk about you.
At the last meeting, the DJ actually insulted you in person, and you didn't have any response. I think we're talking about a person's dignity. A person should have dignity, so does a country. If you insult our country, you're insulting 1.3 billion people. Thank you. Next, Mr. Fong Ka Leung. Good afternoon, Chairman. I represent the Liberal Party. I support the enactment of the National Anthem Law. In recent years, as we've heard just now, on many different public occasions, there have been people who actually insulted the national anthem. They booed the national anthem when the anthem was being played. They were actually, turned the back, and so on. Not just in China, in many other countries as well, the national anthem is like the national flag. It's a symbol of the whole country. It incorporates the whole history of the country and represents the culture and spirit of the different ethnic groups in their country. Under one country, two system, some people don't have a sense of national identity, and therefore they have certain misguided perception of our own nation. And when public events are being held, they will engage in behavior which is disrespectful of the national anthem. Some people argued that, said that this would affect our image. But if we do not act the national anthem law, it would even hurt Hong Kong's image more. Mr. Yip referred to Catalonia. Like other people in Hong Kong, I like soccer. I like to watch football matches. When I go to the UK, I go there to actually attend the football matches there. But Barcelona is not a country. Barcelona simply means that we support a soccer team, and the spirit of sportsmanship means that we're talking about competition about different soccer matches. But if you in a competition between national teams, if you actually engage in behavior which is disrespectful of your own national anthem, that is wrong. Someone said that we should begin with education, and it has been suggested that we should start, teaching young people, to sing the national anthem and teach them about the history of the national anthem and observe the proper etiquette and understand the values behind the national anthem. Is it really necessary, for example, for the teacher to report on students who are disrespectful of the national anthem? That is not so. Instead, the teacher should point out to the student that what they do is wrong. If the student conducts himself, that is not respectful of the national anthem. I mean, it's like children who are naughty. I think we should really resort to education. I think the time is up. Mr. Chen Kai-Koi. I think the intention of the National Anthem Law is to make the people of Hong Kong respect the Chinese national anthem, and to make us, respect the Chinese Communist regime. But the Chinese Communist Party never respected us. Has it respected the lyricist of the national anthem? Have they respected the students who sacrificed lives in 1989? They've never respected the people of Hong Kong. Neither have they respected our language, our culture. We all work more than 10 hours a day. We live in very small and cramped, apartments. And every day they would send 150 people to Hong Kong and compete for our own resources and actually pushing up our property prices. The Communist Party is actually an invader for Hong Kong. They are our enemy. We hear in the news every day that the national anthem is being played and is not being sung in our own mother tongue. So they are deliberately trying to trample on the people of Hong Kong. They are building subdivided flats in Hong Kong. And 2 years ago, I had a friend who could not, put up with the government anymore and jumped to a step from a height of 20 floors. In Hong Kong, every day we have young people committing suicide. The dreams of our young people are being trampled upon by China. Our young people can no longer survive anymore. They are turning into slaves. Why are we talking about respect here? But even now, the young people still dare to come forward and protest. They are the most determined and strong-willed. I like to appeal to young people who have not yet dared to join our ranks so that we can actually fight justice and fight and change the history of Hong Kong and let there be independence for Hong Kong. Okay, I'll ask the security to ask you this person to leave. Next, we have Miss Amy Chan. I'm sorry. I am a member of the concerned group for secondary creation. I was singing the Welsh national anthem. This song, although it's not officially recognized as a national anthem, but whenever a soccer match was played, the Welsh people would sing this song. And our Welsh minister, because he couldn't sing this song, he was ridiculed by the Welsh people. He had to be, posted to a different position. I won't, use such an extreme example. If you take the British national anthem, God Save the Queen, they have no laws of forbidding secondary creation. There is a punk, group, Sex Crystal, had a song called God Save the Queen, which is actually a mockery of the pro-establishment camp, but they were not criminally or civilly prosecuted. I cite these examples because I want to point out that about actually whether the government has the confidence in itself. If the government has the self-confidence, they don't need draconian laws to protect their own national identity. For example, in Wales, for example, they use this traditional song to represent their own identity. And the UK, although they don't not like this second creation, but they still respect the freedom of speech of this rock group, which shows that the government has the tolerance. So the government is insisting on acting the National Anthem Law. Are they telling the rest of the world that the Chinese government and the Asian government does not have any confidence, and therefore they are relying on enacting the legislation to force people to respect the national anthem? I think the answer to that question is obvious. For those people, for the IPPCR, which Hong Kong are signatory, it is stipulated that everyone has a right to freely express their own opinion, and this right includes seeking, receiving, or disseminating any information or ideas irrespectful of national boundaries, and whether they are in writing or verbal or whatever, or through any medium. That is why second creation of the national anthem is protected by the ICCPR. Although the component says that but if the citizens were to engage in second creation of the national anthem, it is actually jeopardizing national security. That is actually, illogical. It means the government is so fragile. So on behalf of the Copyright and Second Creation Coalition, to strongly object to the enactment of the national anthem. Mr. Fu Ka-shing. Good afternoon. I am a member of the Student Union of the Hengsheng School of Commerce. I'm worried that the national anthem law may affect academic freedom and freedom of speech on campus. In the graduation ceremony of many tertiary institutions, there is a session where they will play the national anthem. Some students, to show their protest against the communist government in China, had engaged in behavior which does not respect the national anthem. The universities, being the breeding ground of student movement and so on, do we have the duty to protect the freedom of expression? The students are entitled to freely express their ideas. Our, president, in an interview at Mingpao, had said that after the enactment of the national anthem law, he would consider, re-educating the students of our institution. And this is tantamount to, trampling on our freedom to freely express our political beliefs. So I'd like to ask the officials whether they would agree that this is actually this will affect the freedom of speech of the students. Next, Mr. Tam Wing Hong. Good afternoon. I represent the Senate of the Tertiary Institution. Last year, the MPCSC decided to enact the National Anthem Law and incorporated it into Annex 3 of the Basic Law, which require the national anthem to be either promulgated or this will be done by promulgation of public or by legislation. The national anthem represents the dignity of our nation. In other countries, respecting the national anthem and national emblem is an international standard. Hong Kong being part of China, I think we all have the duty to respect our national anthem. To deliberately, go against the regulation is wrong. Some people are worried that after we have the national anthem law, we could easily, breach the law. But in Article 4, it is we already know that only on designated occasions would there be, would the national anthem be sung, and a person would need to deliberately have the intention to insult the national law before they will be in breach. But on the other hand, we saw that the public has don't have enough understanding of the national anthem law. The government should step up education. The Education Bureau should follow the local and should come up with rules so that on the one hand we would maintain a one country system, and I think the national anthem law is to enhance our sense of nationality. It's not really stifling our freedom of expression of thoughts. So in public education, the government should work together with the media and the public to promulgate to disseminate the understanding. So the National Anthem Law help maintain our national dignity. In order to prevent people from insulting the National Anthem Law, we fully support the early enactment of the National Anthem Law. Mr. Wang Chifeng, we believe that the National Anthem Law is relying on criminal sanctions to actually, stifle our freedom of expression. We will ask the government to withdraw the National Anthem Bill and to terminate all the legislative procedure. Beijing has incorporated the National Anthem Law into Annex 2 of the Basic Law and require us to go for local legislation. That is against the principle of a high degree of autonomy. According to the Basic Law, other than foreign affairs and so on, Hong Kong has the autonomy. But making the National Anthem Law and incorporate into Annex 3 is going against that principle. According to the Basic Law, Hong Kong can freely, formulate its own policies regarding education. Education policy should actually follow the framework of the Education Bureau, but this time the government is using the excuse of promoting National Anthem Law and trying to brainwash the people. And we're worried that the government in future will use the pretext of patriotism to intervene with the education system. The National Anthem Law is actually will stifle people's freedom of expression. What is ironic is that the officials like Paul Chan, Yang Yong-hong, and Fanny Law and so on, their children all attend international schools. Or the children are all holding foreign passports, singing the US or the UK national anthem. So it shows that the children of the officials in China and Hong Kong are hypocrites. And we would like to ask Secretary to tell us, first of all, whether or not the National Anthem Law applies to international schools. And secondly, we are compelling international schools to teach the Chinese National Anthem. The pro-government camp said that we cannot copy the system in the West, but when they object to our efforts to fight for democracy, and when the government is saying that we need to enact the National Anthem Law, they say you have the same in the other countries. But in Australia and US, there are no criminal, sanctions. It's only President Xi Jinping and the Communist Party who talk about the need for patriotism, but they're actually trampling on our freedom. The other gentleman who talked about, the young gentleman who spoke was willing to use his platform today to express his opinion, and Holdem Chan asked 7 security guards to evict him from this chamber. This is a very good example. So have you really respected young people? I hope Holdem Chan, as the chairman, would explain himself. Of course, there are clear guidelines, governing, protests. But does it mean that in a public hearing we cannot, talk about independence for Hong Kong?
Before the next speaker speaks, I have the responsibility to remind the deputations again. When you came in, I already said that you should stick strictly to the order of this meeting and you should not resort to radical behavior. And if you disrupt the order, I have the right to send you out of the room. Next one, Mr. McInho. Just now, many speakers said that the National Anthem Law is not a request or demand from Hong Kong locally, but it's that the NPC did the decision and it was included in Annex 3 of the Basic Law. Now, I'd like to say that they made the National Anthem Law, but then they could not even satisfy their own requirements. Here it always says there is this respect. Let us talk about Mao Zedong when he was young, how he treated his country. On the 10th of October 1926, he wrote an article saying that he objected to unity. I like to quote from the conclusion. The National Day celebration should be for the Republic of China, or ROC. I would like to say on National Day that I like to say I object to unifying the country. I would like to have different provinces celebrating their own national days. That is what he said. He was not talking about the national anthem, but he was talking about a national day celebration. Well, all that could be related, and this, of course, would relate to national flag and national emblem, and that is all about respect. It is clear that, well, I should talk about history. At that time, there was this independence campaign for Hunan. Mao Zedong took part in the drafting of a constitution for Hunan. This is a disrespect for National Day celebration. Why I'm mentioning this here? It is because the National Anthem Law raised the country to a level which would not have been supported even when Mao Zedong was young. That's all. Next one, Mr. Zhang Weihang. Thank you, Chairman. I will be speaking on the history of the National Anthem Law, the articles themselves, and also enforcement and education. First of all, the basic principle is in Article 1, but I think it's self-contradictory. Well, this is to enhance the sense of nation among citizens, to promote patriotism, but at the same time, it is to cultivate and practice the core values of socialism. It is said that as the CCP declaration says, workers do not have a country. You cannot deprive them of what they do not have. So you are saying that the workers themselves do not have their own country. But why are you asking them to respect a country they actually do not have in the first place? And also in Hong Kong, our popular culture is that even if I speak loudly, it doesn't mean that I'm rude. Therefore, people may have inaccuracy of pronunciation when they sing the national anthem. If you want to make this bill and if you want to promote the national anthem, then you have to be more precise. You have to make guidelines for the reference of the public. Mr. Leung Chun-ying's way of singing it, and maybe Mrs. Regina Ip's facial expressions, you should stipulate these so people will not have any misunderstanding. As for oath-taking, Article 4 mentions that when oaths are taken, the national anthem should be played. Of course, there was a very big row about oath-taking 2 years ago because of the pronunciation. We proposed that we should sing the national anthem law instead of taking the LegCo oath, but I don't think the Secretariat of the LegCo have any understanding about music. So I think we should go for Christine Sampson and Miss Elisa Chen and other famous singers to help the oath-taking ceremony. And in order not to be divisive amongst different parties here, we should make reference to some singing contests in China so that people have to wear masks when they sing the national anthem to make sure that the assessment and examination is fair and neutral. We should also review the history of Mr. Tian Han. When somebody said that he was vindicated in 1979, if you think what is done is a respect for Mr. Tian Han, then at least there should be a museum to show the history of Mr. Tian Han. And about promotion, the SARG should ask all its officials to sing a part of the national anthem and make it available for the reference of the public. And I believe the Secretary and Mr. Edward Yao should be here to promote the anthem when the country is in such a difficult situation instead of traveling overseas. Next, Mr. Wan Kai-ming. Many views have been expressed, but I think we should be objective in addressing the making of the bill. This is only about people flouting the law in a deliberate manner. There is no question of the public being easily trapped by the law. As long as you respect the national anthem, if you do not break the law deliberately, you do not have to be over worried. And it is not necessary to listen to the scaremongers. They are saying that you can be easily trapped. If you sing one word wrong, you will be arrested. I don't think that is a big possibility. And as it was said, there should be the freedom of expression. But I don't think that is the excuse to object to local legislation. Article 27 of the Basic Law says that Hong Kong people have the freedom of speech, of the press, of publication, etc. And according to ICCPR, Article 19, bracket 3, it states that in order to protect public order, laws can be made to make necessary restrictions on Article 27 of the Basic Law. The CFA also judged a case on the national flag, and it confirmed the constitutionality and legality of such restrictions. Therefore, the so-called protection of secondary creation or freedom of expression, etc., if you object to having this bill, you cannot have any legal backing. In recent years, as many people said, there have been deliberate insults to the national anthem. Well, it is a symbol of the country. Last year in November, the MPCSC decided to list the law in Annex 3 of the Basic Law for implementation in the SAR. And the SARG has the responsibility to entrench the law in Hong Kong and to give expression to the spirit of the law so as to exhibit the dignity of the country. As I said, after we have the law in Hong Kong, the important occasion to teach it is the school. The school should teach the original intent and the meaning of the national anthem and pass it on to the next generation to reduce unnecessary misunderstanding that you may be arrested easily. We can't control people's thoughts, but we should not deprive our young people the opportunity to learn about the national anthem. Thank you, Mr. Lau Chi-hung. Thank you. I read history in university. I am studying a master's degree in the Faculty of History at Beijing University. But even if I'm a patriot, I object to the bill. Patriotism is a kind of expression of conduct, but it is ridiculous to make a law. It's just like loving your parents. Of course, that is natural, but if you make a bill to stipulate that people should love their parents, that is very bad. Actually, the March of the Volunteers is a song of a film in 1935, which is about resisting the Japanese. The academic sector has already questioned the CCP for expanding their territory in the name of resisting the Japanese. In fact, it colluded with the Japanese in order to resist the National Army. Well, you can refer to a book by Yuen Tan Yu, which explains this enigma. And as others have said, Mr. Tian Han in 1968 was so much suppressed that he died during the Cultural Revolution. Actually, few people pay attention to that part of history, but now you want to make this national anthem bill, people are exposing such stories. You make a bill in order to force people to love the country, I think it is going to be counterproductive. You will just attract a lot of opposition. Also, Hong Kong has one country, two systems. We have a high degree of autonomy. We have our own uniqueness. Recently, we have the Sino-American trade war, and the U.S. is imposing hefty tariff on steel imported into the U.S. SCED, Mr. Edward Yao, said that the SARG is already negotiating bilaterally that Hong Kong is an independent tariff zone and we should not be included in the list. So he is telling people that we are unique. We have one country, two systems. That is what we should treasure. But now, when you introduce a national law into our local legislation, you are damaging one country, two systems, the freedom of creation, the freedom of education, and freedom of speech. I hope officials will understand. You are Hong Kong people as well. You are paid your remuneration by Hong Kong people. You may have your political mission, but political conflicts should be tackled by political appointees. I hope you will use your conscience to stop the entire process of making the National Anthem Bill. Next one, Mr. Chang Ping. Chairman, I represent the Fujian Community Federation. I thank you for the hearing, so we have a way to express our views. We support the bill, and I hope you will do it ASAP. The national flag, emblem, and anthem are all symbols of the country. It represents the unity of the country. It is the moral standard of the people, and it is a universal value. Our culture and activities have been affected by young people not respecting the national anthem. Remember the soccer matches and also tertiary institutes graduation ceremony. Before we have the bill, we can only exercise moral sanction. Hong Kong is a place with the rule of law. You have laws regulating parking, smoking. Well, the national anthem is a sacred symbol of the country, so you should make a law to regulate it. We should feel love for the country, and it is very important for the unity of the country. And the way to express such patriotism is through respecting the national anthem. It's just like loving your parents and loving your family. You will just do it all the time. Therefore, when you make the law, I like to say the following. People say Article 1 already flouts the basic law because Hong Kong should not implement socialism. However, it says it should cultivate the practice and practice the core values of socialism. It doesn't say that Hong Kong should practice socialism. And we are talking about basic morals, and it doesn't go against the basic law. Some people in the community say that our freedom of speech and secondary creation would be affected. But no, you will be caught only if you do it in a public venue, you do it deliberately, and you use a distorted and derogatory manner. And all these have to be deliberate. As long as you have a respectful attitude, you will not be caught. And freedom of speech should be protected, but at the same time it should be bound by the law. We should not implement it through disrespecting the national anthem. Respecting the national anthem will not affect human rights.
Furthermore, Hong Kong is an SAR under China, and we have two systems based on one country. National anthem, I think, to enact the national anthem law in Hong Kong cannot be disputed. Those who object are deliberately, promoting independence for Hong Kong. I don't think they should actually, mislead our next generation. We should actually, help them enhance a sense of national belonging. And sorry, your time is up. Next, Mr. Koo Chung Hin. Thank you. My name is Koo Chung Hin. I also am an ad hoc member of, a member of the Tai Po District Council Committee. At the committee, we have school principals and other members trying to explore how we can serve the students and the public so that they can have a better life and better understand our society, and that different ethnic groups can integrate, with society. But what we know is that we cannot compel people to do anything. We can't force students to have a positive mindset so that they won't commit suicide. You can't force young people to do that. And we also believe that whether we respect the national anthem we should leave it to the judgment of the students. Although the national anthem law, touches on area of education, but since I attended kindergarten, the teachers will always teach us about the national anthem. But that is not the most important. It is important that but I don't say you cannot impose on people that they must have, feeling for the country and national sentiment. Another deputation talked about the background of the March of the Volunteers. So in Japan, how do they, treat the national anthem? And I found that in 1996, the latest version of the National Anthem Law stipulates that the civil servants and teachers who work as civil servants and teachers have a duty to sing the national anthem, but there are no criminal penalties or sanctions. I think even in Japan they had controversies over the national law. In 1992, a school principal asked the government to withdraw the 1996 legislation, which required all schools to compel the students to sing the national anthem, because that would be a breach of the freedom of speech. In Hong Kong, our core value is that we have freedom of speech, and there's no obvious censorship. In Hong Kong, we have this competitive edge that we have freedom of speech. We are different from the mainland. That is the last straw. Sorry. Next, I will ask the Secretary to respond to the points raised during this session. But before you do that, Mr. Secretary, I'd like to ask members present how many of them intend to ask questions or make comments. Yes? We have two members who would like to speak. Because of the time constraint, I'm going to draw a line, and we have three colleagues who would like to speak, and myself included, then I'm going to draw a line after that. May I propose that each member be given 3 minutes? Secretary, could you give a brief response, and then members can proceed with the questions. Thank you. I'd like to thank the deputations for the comments. After the 2 days of public hearings, we have heard, from 187 deputations regarding the proposal to enact the National Anthem Law. I'd like to reiterate again that what we are discussing now is how we can do a good job in terms of the local legislation. Enacting the National Anthem Law is our duty according to the article, according to basic law. And through local legislation, any act which is tantamount to an insult of the national anthem should be banned. It is a duty that we respect the national anthem. And some deputations suggested that we are forcing people to be patriotic through the local legislation of the National Anthem Law. I believe that many people have respect for our own country, and they all have their national patriotic sentiment. Some people may have the same feeling, but we're not talking about, forcing you to do anything through legislation. What we're talking about is basic etiquette and manners. Through local legislation, we just want to achieve those purposes. And secondly, some deputations said that Hong Kong is an independent member of the WTO, and in the course of the trade war, a Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development was alluded to. I'd like to point out that this is exactly shows that under the one country system scenario, Hong Kong has a unique position. We have our own autonomy to deal with those trade issues. So Hong Kong is unique, but at the same time, we're not independent. We belong to our country, and respecting our national anthem and emblem is our duty. So we should therefore correctly understand one country system is very important. Also, when we draft the bill, we will certainly bear in mind the requirement to to implement the national law, and at the same time, giving due respect to our legal system and do a good job in terms of the local legislation. Okay, Ms. Claudimo, I think public hearings like this, the chairman, Mr. Hon Chow, and the officials is called Mr. Yip Tak Kuen. He used to be with the Government Information Department, right, Mr. Patrick Nip? If you don't deny that, it would mean that you say that's true. Yeah, you were. Why won't you say that? Because I have received a submission from the Zhengzhou Clansmen Association. I heard someone saying that we must enact the National Anthem Law, otherwise young people will not have the opportunity to learn the National Anthem. I'm rather surprised because National Anthem is being played on television every day. With one click you can go online and you have lots of opportunities to learn. Other people have said that if you object to the enactment of the National Anthem Law, you're advocating local independence for Hong Kong, and therefore we must have our national sentiment and love for our country. Through the chairman, I'd like to ask Mr. Wong Chi Fong, you said that young people now no longer have the opportunity to learn the National Anthem, and secondly, you object to the promotion of independence, and then you would not have the sense of national sentiment. What exactly, do you mean? Ms. Mo, I think I'm using my time to listen to the views of the public deputation. I already made the decision. I hope you can continue. All right, let me put the question to you instead then. I don't know, Mr. Hon Chow, you're the LegCo member who is the one who lacks, integrity the most. So what is your decision? If we start a debate like that, we're supposed to adjourn at 4:30. In that case, I'm asking the deputation, whose name is Wong Chi Fong, why can't you let him answer my question? All right, if another member have a question regarding our rules of procedure, I'll let him ask the question first. Jeremy Tam, I don't understand why you have this change of mind. In the past, whenever we have public hearings, members can invite the deputations who had spoken to further clarify or elaborate on their points. We've been doing that all along. Why is it today that you're not allowing that? Mr. Tam, I hear what you've said. I'll let Alice Mack say. Chairman, Ms. Mo said that you're the LegCo member with the least integrity. Is that really offensive? I think she could be, offending me, but you are using your expression to allow her to offend you. Never mind. If you are being offended, then shouldn't you, follow the rules of procedure? It's a question of consistency, Ms. Mo. If a chairman could have the discretion to allow himself to be offended, then what will happen to other members who are chairing other committees? Ms. Mo, I think you shouldn't speak, whatever. Mr. I thought you would have answered my question first before you allow Ms. Mack to continue, to go on. Last time, you allowed the DAP member to sing the National Anthem. When somebody else tried to sing the National Anthem, you said no one is allowed to sing the National Anthem in this chamber. You're not being consistent. Mr. Tim, I don't want to waste members' time. I made a simple ruling. Last time, that is during the public hearing last time, we had a similar incident, and right at the beginning, myself and Mr. Liu had said clearly that that you have your own allotted time, and we should not, give your time to the deputations. But I'm putting a question to the deputation. I didn't understand too clearly what he was saying. I want him to clarify what he meant just now. But you're saying that I only have 3 minutes. So if I have, I'm actually asking a question relating to what he said, or there might be contradictions among the deputations. I'd like to ask why. I think that is a valid question to put. Secretary, would you like to respond to Ms. Claudia Mo's question? Because Mr. Siu Ka-fei has also indicated he would like to speak. I don't think Ms. Mo has made that same point during the public hearing earlier. Alice Mack, Chairman, I think we should finish at 4:30. Either you extend the meeting, otherwise I think I don't need to speak. I have already said that I will allow Ms. Mack and Mr. Siu Ka-fei to speak, and then we will adjourn. Chairman. Ms. Mo, please, would you allow Ms. Mack to speak first? Ms. Mack. We've heard so many sessions of the public hearing. I think people who have their respective positions some of them would feel that there is no need for enacting the legislation on the national anthem, whereas for others, the question is not whether we should enact the legislation, but how we should do it. And I don't think we've heard a similar discussion. Different people are simply expressing their own point of views. Even those who support the enactment of the National Anthem Law may not be able to tell us how they want the government to proceed to enact the legislation. So it shows that you don't need any further consultation or white paper or whatever. The result would be the same. Those who would support the enactment will support the enactment. Those who object will continue to object. So I think we should therefore, discharge our responsibility and then focus on how we can, enact a legislation in light of the circumstances of Hong Kong.
Last time I told you, Secretary, I remember you said this at the last hearing, that you would not copy the entire National Anthem Law to Hong Kong, but you did not have a chance to say that today. But I think you should make the statement again, and that is you will not just copy the entire National Anthem Law to Hong Kong, but you will have or avail yourselves to the actual circumstances in Hong Kong. I hope you will listen to the public, but of course there will be voices telling you not to make the law. But I would like you to start the process of making the bill as soon as possible by having reference to the Hong Kong situation. Secretary, thank you. Ms. Mack, you are entirely correct. To make local legislation according to Annex 3 of the Basic Law, it doesn't mean we need to transport the national law to Hong Kong in entirety, but you should have reference to Hong Kong situation. We will be including the purpose and intent of the law in the preamble. And also, with regard to penalties, as you can see, we are acting according to the common law system. And in terms of education, we will preserve the requirement of the national law that we teach it in primary and secondary schools. But at the same time, we will act according to the education system of Hong Kong. Last speaker, Mr. Shu Ka-fai. Chairman, I am not a member of the panel, but I have come back to listen to views these 2 Saturdays. And of course, people are entitled to their views. I like to say that the national flag, anthem, and emblem, they are symbols of the Chinese, and everyone should try not to insult them, because if you insult them, you insult the entire nation. I have heard some people say that it is okay for people to respect it, and it is not necessary to make a law to force people to respect it. They say it is not correct. Well, in the last 2 years, I think many Hong Kong people have seen what happened at soccer pitches. The act of a minority of people was insulting to the Chinese, and it's very embarrassing when this happens in the presence of foreigners. If everyone respects others, then of course we don't even need laws for the entire world. The purpose of making a law is to control those people who don't respect other people and who try to challenge other people. These people should be controlled by laws, and we must go for this law. Today, it is not a discussion of whether we should enact the law, but we are only really talking about specific implementation. Some deputations said that children or students might be caught by the law. I heard the explanation last week, but maybe because of time constraint, the Secretary did not have a chance to say it today. Maybe I should give the floor to the Secretary to say that. Secretary, the law requires respect for the national anthem. If you have that mentality, you will exhibit it in your conduct, so you need not worry. And through the present education system will enforce the law. Right now, schools are already teaching the national anthem, the background and etiquette when the song is played, and teachers know how to teach students. Some students may be naughty, they may not understand a lot, and our teachers are teaching them. I believe, therefore, that we should concentrate on stopping open and deliberate insult to the national anthem. We would still rely on teachers to teach students. I'm sure the teachers know what to do. After we have the law, Education Bureau will liaise closely with schools and teachers. Some deputations asked whether we could provide more support and communicate more and provide guidelines. We'll do that. Okay, time is up. I will close the meeting here. Thank you very much for coming.